Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Ken. Today we're talking about all of these reports about the Canadian housing prices drop significantly. Maybe a report like this one, or this one, maybe this one, or that one. You know what? There's hundreds of them. It's like they copy-pasted. Seems like Bloomberg News. Let's jump right into it. Canada is set for big housing drop in home prices. Bloomberg Economics. That's right, Bloomberg has released some data suggesting that the Canadian housing bubble is going to eventually pop, leading to a big drop in home prices. Now, this report is wide open. It's going to eventually pop. I mean, is that this year? Is that next year? Is that 5 years? Is that 10 years from now? This is a very speculative report based on some kind of trivial data. And while the data is very interesting, and we're going to get into it, but it's very open for interpretation. So it's not going to be boring. Let's look at data and stats and all that kind of stuff. What I want to talk about is this report. Along with New Zealand, Canada is highly susceptible to a housing price correction in the very near but unknown future. And this is due to a high price versus income ratio and really abnormal price rent ratios, which we have seen especially in markets like Vancouver and Toronto. But it's now, basically been for quite a while. Both New Zealand and Canada have also been susceptible to foreign investment coming in and buying up a ton of real estate, condos in Toronto, homes and condos in Vancouver, and basically they've been empty. What's happening is a lot of these investors, a lot from China and from other countries throughout the world, are wanting to get their money out of China or out of these countries and put them into a more safe investment, and that's Canadian and really New Zealand real estate. So Canada has implemented, and I believe New Zealand has as well, a foreign buyer's tax, which basically means if you're a foreigner, you're buying investment real estate, this isn't a principal residence. And I actually don't know if it is principal residence and they move here, if there's that tax still implemented. But basically, foreign investors have been hit with a tax both in Vancouver and in Toronto to try and slow down the investment, the people that are buying investment real estate and basically not doing anything with it, just sitting vacant. They're not even renting it out. In some cases, it's literally being vacant. Some houses in Vancouver, they don't even cut the grass. Like, they're getting slapped with all these fines and they don't care. They just pay the fine, whatever. So it's been a bit of an issue, specifically in Vancouver, a little bit in Toronto, and really in New Zealand, they've really hit on it hard. So what is compounding this even further is the Federal Reserve in the US has cut interest rates, their lending rate, their key lending rate, and it's been 2.5% for like 10 years. And now they've just cut it down to 2.25. Doesn't seem like a huge deal, but it really is. And there's a few reasons why I think that they've gone ahead and done this. Number one, President Trump has put a ton of influence on wanting to really stimulate the economy as much as he can. He wants his job numbers. He wants unemployment to be low. He wants to be able to say, I'm the best president for the economy ever. So when 2020 rolls around, with all the other drama that he's created, and this isn't a political discussion, it's just with everything that's been created from the Trump administration, he wants to be able to say, yeah, but look at the numbers. And so while he has no connection to the Federal Reserve is its own entity, they have in turn made this reduction. Now, it's not because of President Trump. There's a couple of reasons why I want to talk about this and why I think they've done this. Number one, there's been a global slowdown. This is part of the reason, though, because of President Trump. A ton of tariffs on China and other countries around the world have made working with the US and with those countries extremely difficult. Imagine building a car for $10,000 and selling it for $20,000, okay? You're now importing that car from China to the United States and effectively having to put on a 25% tariff on your goods and services. So while you've built it for 10, it takes time to ship it over and costs, and then they've got to sell it, and there's the dealer markups and margins and all that stuff. There's really not that much margin on a car, using it as an example. And if you're a car person, I'm not saying that these numbers are accurate or correct. I'm just using them as an example. Now you've got to absorb another $2,500 you've got to absorb another $5,000 on that $20,000 imports, okay? And again, the numbers are skewed up and down, but if you have to add $3,000 to $5,000 of a percentage on something where the margins are very low, it's extremely difficult to make money as a car manufacturer, or if you're importing anything else from China specifically to the US. Trump has played a very hard line, and so a lot of companies in the US and Canada have felt the pinch on Donald Trump's tariffs. Now, in Canada, we've had some easing in regards to steel and other exports that we send out, but still, it's been a very hard road for a lot of countries globally to deal with the United States. That in turn has caused U.S. manufacturing to slow down and really caused inflation to kind of slow down. So a combination of a multitude of things, the Federal Reserve is sitting there saying we need to kind of stimulate the economy, not necessarily in the way that we think, us being the population, but from a business and tactical standpoint, they want to make sure that there's still some spending happening in the US, creating some more inflation, basically spending more money in the economy, which is going to help all these businesses that are kind of starting to slow down and feel that. Let's talk about this. So, Bank of Canada has held their rate at 1.75, and I don't see them potentially cutting it again in the fall when the next rate announcement is due. We have had a very good run for jobs in Canada. We continually increase jobs, and that's because we've had just a steady base of good economics that has lasted for a very long period of time. We also had increasingly strong immigration. 2018, according to CIC News, you can check them out online, we've had 310,000 permanent residents brought into Canada. 310,000 is about 1% of our population. That would be like saying bringing in 3 million people into the US. 1% of their population, maybe closer to 4 million now. So we've brought in a ton of people into our economy. Those people have been brought in and want to work. They want to get more education. They want to raise a better life for their family. And so we've had a lot of things that have positively influenced our economy. So what does, to come full circle, what does this mean with all of these reports that the pricing is going to drop and that we could see the bubble burst? That's another big thing. The bubble's going to burst. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Look, here's the reality. We have a very good job market. We've also got an election coming up in the fall. We're going to have a fallout from this election, whether the Liberals win or the Conservatives win or something happens or changes. There's going to be a bit of a fallout. We've also had a major issue in the West with the pipeline. Forget the political aspect of it. I'm not here to talk politics, but we've had a lot of jobs, and the West has really felt the decrease in exporting oil, which is one of our major commodities. So they've really had a major price correction there. Vancouver, major price correction there already. Some areas up to 30%. Toronto and the GTA, we haven't really had a price decrease, which haven't had a price increase over the last 6 months and probably closer to a year now. So that's a good thing. It's a fertile real estate market. There's not that many listings. It gives buyers an opportunity to really take a look now at these real estate prices and go, do we want to buy this house for this price? And if not, while there's not a ton of inventory, it gives the buyers a little bit more of an option. As a seller, listen, you just need to be priced correctly, and not just priced correctly. You know, if your home is dated, this is the time, if you have the means, to go and fix your home up and make that home more attractive and provide more value for a buyer, which in turn, it's going to give you a little bit more money when you sell. So smart decisions by buyers, smart decisions by sellers is going to keep our real estate economy basically where it is. It might increase a little bit and it might decrease a little bit. But the major issue, which I'm going to talk about in another video, but I'll touch on briefly here, is affordability. Affordability. Affordability for Canadians is becoming tougher and tougher as prices keep going up, not just for real estate, but for goods and services, and wages stay sort of stagnant. The reality of this is we are going to, as a population, have to start expanding out of Toronto and get into other underlying areas where prices are a little bit more affordable. And what you're going to start seeing over the next 3 to 5 years, in my opinion, is a lot of companies that you work for, that you go to an office for but don't need to. You're going to be able to have more flex days and potentially even have a full-time career working from home. This will allow many Canadians to basically live where they want to, meaning you don't have to be in the downtown core, and you're going to be able to still work your job and have a more flexible schedule. I'm going to get into this more in another video, but I really truly think as this happens, Hamilton is going to become a hotbed for companies to go to and get out of the Toronto core, and that means all the way from Niagara Falls out into Brantford. All of these places are going to end up getting built up because companies are going to get away from Toronto and move outside the core, Hamilton being one of them, and probably get more east as well, so that the whole stretch along Lake Ontario, the whole GTA, is going to have it. You're going to be having an ability to get a good job basically anywhere that you live. So a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to discuss. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to have an open discussion, and I don't think we're going to see a major drop in home prices. In fact, I really don't think we're going to see a drop in prices at all. This isn't a real estate salesperson coming out and saying, real estate's great, nothing's going to happen. I just think based on economic factors and where we are with our jobs and our current market, I think we're in for a fairly steady ride. Now, if the global economy tanks, of course we're going to have major corrections and major drops because everybody's going to tank. It's just reality of the situation. Right now, global economy is slow but still holding fairly steady. US economy is actually really pumping right now, which means really good news for our Canadian economy. Coffee with Ken. Hope you learned something. I hope we can have a great dialogue about this, and I'd love to hear your comments and feedback down below. Like the video, follow me on YouTube. I'd really love to start building my subscriber base up a bit more because I want to create more open content and conversation so we can have I can provide more value to you as you watch and learn from these videos. Have a great day. First day of August. This is crazy. We are into the second half now of 2019. Hope you've had a great first half of 2019. Have a great day.